So I'm going to tell you about the great revelation of this century, of the great enlightenment that's about to happen. And as with all of these things, it's pretty much hidden at the moment, but I'm going to show it to you. And then over time, it just becomes apparent to everybody. And eventually, it's just an obvious. We just live in this enhanced way. And right now, many of the difficulties are because we haven't yet experienced it truly or understood it. But I'm going to explain to you what it is and even the time frame that is going to reveal itself on. And so when I tell you some of these things, that they're going to sound a bit strange, if not impossible. But you must remember that is always the way with enlightenments. It's bringing us to a place where things become possible that once we weren't even aware of or didn't even dream of. So I'm going to list the five big ones. And just stay with me because I've written about it, I've explained it, I break it down. Once you understand it, it's quite simple. You know, once you're on the other side of that enlightenment, it's quite obvious and straightforward. So just hang in there. The first one is the end of mental illness. And you know, I've written about that, I've explained it. It's all there. It's not that hard to see once you see it, how it happens. The next one is the end of tyranny. Again, it's all there. It's not that hard to understand once you're shown it. The next one is the end of the chronic disease epidemic, which has already begun. You know, that one is already well underway. The fourth one is the completed model of the human species, that we become self-aware as a species and finally understand ourselves. Again, I've written it, I've explained it, and before you see it, it's impossible to see, and then after you see it, it's kind of obvious that it's always been there to see. And the last one is just the understanding of organizational disease and what organizational hygiene is. And those are five of the biggest, I think. And there may be others coming, you know, but these are five I'm very, very aware of and understand and spend my days sharing with people and explaining it to people. This great enlightenment of the 21st century, which is just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And seeing it and experience it does affect you. So what I'll also explain the time frame that it occurs on. So, you know, it's 2026. And for the rest of this decade is the whisperings of this enlightenment. More and more, you know, on the periphery, it'll be whispered of and spoken about. And slowly move towards the center, being aware of it, but maybe not particularly thinking much of it or thinking it's a bit strange, these ideas. But that's what these next 4 years will be about. And then the next decade will be about truly waking up to this, you know, truly people becoming aware of it and understanding it and seeing these things as normal and going to the other side of that enlightenment where it becomes quite obvious and clear and that it was always there to be seen. And that's a whole decade of awakening. And these awakenings are joyful and wonderful, but also difficult and challenging, you know. And there will, of course, throughout this be great difficulties mounting because we haven't woken up to this yet. And in a way, those difficulties are shaking us and, you know, rousing us from our. And then we move on to the last half of this century. Well, once the Enlightenment occurs and we're aware of these things, there's still a tremendous amount of work to be done. You know, we can see how to end mental illness. We can see how to end the chronic disease epidemic. We can see how to end tyranny in the world. We can understand the completed model. We can understand organizational disease and organizational hygiene. I think the quickest one will be ending mental illness. That's like super simple and straightforward. Once you see it, it's really quite something. I think the chronic disease epidemic, we can do that pretty quickly too, I think, when people wake up and we sort of embrace this change collectively. I think the completed model of the human species, we can embrace that pretty quickly. It's just a quick read and then you know it. I think the end of tyranny, is the biggest challenging one. That's going to be the most work, but obviously it's something wonderful to work towards. And the protection and strengthening of liberal democracies, and um, enhancing them, giving them some upgrades in their vulnerabilities, and then spreading liberal democracies across the world. And that is the end of tyranny. It's not that hard. We understand the pillars that they're based on. They've been around long enough now. We understand how they work, and they're wonderful. And then organizational disease, again, that'll be a tricky one. That's going to be a lot of work to fundamentally change our consciousness and change how we work together and all those things. So this is wonderful, and what I would encourage you to consider is there's always a few at the start. There's usually one that sees it and starts to spread the message, and then there's a few that begin to wake up. And the interesting thing is that they stay with it and stay consistent, and after a decade or so, many others start coming on board, and then after a while of that, it just becomes normal. But the people who really fundamentally have the most significant impact are those first few at the start. So I encourage you to be one of those people, to look into this. And is it a better experience of life? It's a different one. When you're awakened and enlightened and you understand these things, it gives you a sense of focus, connection. It feels a certain way when you're awakened to it. There's certain feelings that come with that awakening. So just think about it, look into it. And but yeah, this is the great enlightenment of our century, these wonderful things. The last century had its great enlightenments, truly wonderful and amazing, and challenging for people to see initially, but then became fairly apparent to everybody, and it's good. It should be a challenge. It should be discussed. It should be debated and investigated robustly and looked into. That's important. It's really a part of organizational hygiene, isn't it? But we should be open to these other perspectives that may seem a bit, well, that couldn't possibly be the case, but it is the case. These things are coming to an end now, and some wonderful things are coming upon us. And just be open to that, and come on this journey, and join me. Be among the first few, because the world needs this, and we need each other's company and community as we work together to bring forth this great enlightenment. So hope you found it interesting. I'd love to hear your comments. I will do my best to look at them and reply to them all, and just start. If you're on board with this, let's connect. Let's collaborate it, and have pretty interesting, if not amazing, lives, because we're one of the first few to really start to bring forth this awakening of the 21st century.